the spring of 1999, a frail and frightened 14-year-old girl entered a Hong Kong police station with a tale that seemed ripped from the pages of a horror novel. Shaking and visibly distressed, she insisted she was being tormented, not by nightmares or trauma, but by the restless spirit of a woman she had helped torture and kill. According to her chilling confession, the woman had been bound with electrical wires, brutally abused for over a month, and then murdered in cold blood. The officers listening were horrified, but what truly shattered them was what came next. As the investigation unfolded, authorities discovered the victim's decapitated head, stuffed inside a large Hello Kitty mermaid doll, a grotesque final resting place that would soon become the defining image of one of Hong Kong's most infamous murder cases. The media dubbed it the Hello Kitty murder, and the case would grip the city with its terrifying mix of cruelty, innocence lost, and the grotesque merging of childhood symbols with real-life horror. The woman at the heart of this nightmare was Fan Man-yee, whose life had been marked by hardship long before it ended in tragedy. Abandoned by her parents as an infant, Fan grew up in the rigid walls of a girls' orphanage, a place where survival often meant growing up too fast. At 16, she was cast out, deemed old enough to fend for herself, though she had no family, no money, and no formal education to stand on. With nowhere to turn, Fan ended up on the streets, struggling to stay alive. The world was unkind, and she did what she had to, falling into drug addiction, committing petty crimes, and eventually selling her body just to eat. But through all the darkness, she never stopped fighting. In 1996, while working as a dancer in a nightclub, Fan met a man who offered what she had always yearned for: companionship and a sense of home. The two married, and soon she gave birth to a baby boy. For the first time in her life, Fan felt the warmth of something resembling a family. Unfortunately, happiness was fleeting. Her husband was also an addict, and their home soon became a battleground. Neighbors recalled constant arguments and violence echoing through the thin apartment walls. Still, Fan didn't give up. Determined to build a better life for her child, she took a job as a hostess and made efforts to get clean. There was a brief glimmer of hope, a moment where it seemed like Fan might finally reclaim control of her destiny. But what she didn't know was that a far more sinister force was lurking in the shadows, waiting to pull her back into the darkness. What followed was a descent into unimaginable cruelty that would shock the world and ensure that her name would never be forgotten. This is not just a story of murder. It's a story of a woman abandoned by society, betrayed by those she trusted, and ultimately consumed by the very desperation she tried so hard to escape. Stay with us as we uncover the full, haunting truth behind the Hello Kitty murder, a case that reveals the darkest corners of the human soul. But in 1997, Fan Man-yee made one fatal mistake, one that would ultimately seal her tragic fate. That year, she crossed paths with Chan Man-lok, a 32-year-old drug dealer and pimp, notorious in Hong Kong's underworld. Chan wasn't just a low-level criminal. He was a leader in an organized crime ring, a man feared for both his connections and his capacity for cruelty. Despite the danger, Fan's ongoing battle with addiction drew her into his orbit. She became one of his regular customers, relying on him for drugs she could no longer afford through her earnings at the nightclub. Over time, their relationship deepened, but not in any way that brought safety, only dependency. Then came the turning point. One day, desperate for money, Fan secretly took Chan's wallet and stole $4,000. The theft didn't go unnoticed. When Chan discovered the missing money, he was furious. He demanded repayment, $4,000 in principal, plus an additional $10,000 in so-called interest. Fan managed to gather the original amount and returned it to him, pleading for more time to pay the rest. But Chan wasn't interested in waiting. He wasn't looking for repayment. He wanted revenge. In March of 1999, Chan took a horrifying step. He sent two of his associates, Leung Xingqiu and Leung Wai-lun, to kidnap Fan. They brought her to an apartment on the third floor of a building on Granville Road in Kowloon, a place that would soon become a chamber of unspeakable suffering. Chan invited a small circle of friends and accomplices to the apartment, and what followed was a descent into cruelty that defies reason. While Chan claimed he was trying to recover the debt, it quickly became clear this was no longer about money. It was about punishment, about sending a message. Fan was to be made an example. Inside that apartment, Fan was restrained with electrical wires, silenced with a gag, and subjected to torment that lasted for weeks. Disturbingly, one of the people who regularly visited during this time was a 13-year-old girl named Ah Fong, Chan's much younger girlfriend. Despite her age, Ah Fong didn't just witness the abuse, she participated in it. She later confessed to police that she joined in for fun, a chilling admission that still shocks investigators to this day. The torture Fan endured was both relentless and cruel. The group reportedly inflicted harm in increasingly inhumane ways, going far beyond physical assault. When they weren't actively hurting her, they sat in the next room playing video games, seemingly unmoved by her cries. Weeks passed, and Fan's condition grew worse. Her body weakened to the point where she could no longer walk. Even then, the abuse didn't stop, and through it all, no one came to help. No neighbors called for aid. No friend came knocking. Fan's suffering remained hidden behind closed doors, until a twist no one could have predicted brought the truth into the light. A frightened teenage girl, haunted by what she had seen and done, walked into a police station and unraveled a case that would haunt Hong Kong forever. What happened next not only revealed the brutal extent of Fan Man-yee's final days, but also exposed the terrifying truth behind the hidden murder. A case so dark, as days turned into weeks, Fan Man-yee's body was all but given up. After enduring nearly a month of relentless abuse, she could no longer move or react. Her body had grown numb to the pain. Her captors, utterly devoid of humanity, noticed that her suffering no longer gave them the twisted satisfaction it once had. So they escalated. They bound her hands, suspended her upside down from the ceiling, and used her like a human punching bag. Sometimes they left her hanging like that for hours, entire nights, while they slept peacefully in the next room. On April 15th, 1999, the group left the apartment to eat, leaving Fan alone in the bathroom. By the time they returned, she was gone. After 30 days of unthinkable torture, her body finally gave out. Fan Man-yee was dead, but the horror didn't end there. Instead of reporting her death or showing even a shred of remorse, Chan Man-lok and his accomplices did something that would horrify the entire world. In an attempt to hide their crime, they placed Fan's lifeless body in a bathtub and methodically dismembered it using a saw. Then, in a detail that still chills investigators, they boiled her remains in the same kitchen utensils they later used to prepare their own meals. As if that wasn't grotesque enough, they disposed of her body parts as garbage, but kept her head. Her decapitated head was stuffed inside a large Hello Kitty mermaid doll. This single macabre detail would become the infamous symbol of the case and inspire its chilling nickname, the Hello Kitty Murder. The truth may have never come out if not for one unexpected visitor to the police station. In May 1999, a 14-year-old girl walked into a Hong Kong police station, trembling and terrified. It was none other than Ah Fong, Chan Man-lok's underage girlfriend, and a participant in Fan's torture. She confessed everything, claiming she had been haunted for weeks by the ghost of Fan Man-yee. She described a terrifying apparition, Fan's spirit covered in electrical wires, appearing in her dreams and even when she was awake. According to Ah Fong, the haunting became unbearable. She believed Fan's spirit wanted justice and wouldn't stop until the truth was known. Whether this was genuine supernatural torment or the effects of trauma-induced guilt, her confession opened the door to one of the most horrific murder cases in Hong Kong's history. The police immediately investigated the apartment Ah Fong described, and what they found confirmed her story. Evidence of torture was everywhere, and in the oversized Hello Kitty doll, they discovered the skull. Chan Man-lok and his 2 accomplices were arrested shortly after. Ah Fong, due to her age and her cooperation, was not charged. She testified against the others and provided critical evidence to the case. However, in court, Chan and his group denied murdering Fan. Their defense: they claimed she had died of a drug overdose, and that they only dismembered her body out of fear that they would be blamed. Unfortunately, due to the condition of Fan's remains, forensic experts were unable to determine the exact cause of death. As a result, the court convicted the trio not of murder, but of manslaughter, sentencing them to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 20 years. But the story didn't end there. After the murder, strange occurrences began to plague the building on Granville Road. Tenants reported unsettling activity, mysterious sounds, sudden cold spots, and, most disturbingly, the cries of a woman in the dead of night from an apartment known to be empty. One young woman who rented a flat on the 4th floor claimed she and her friend would often feel ghostly touches in their sleep and hear weeping through the walls. Others said they'd seen the figure of a woman on the staircase, thin, pale, and silently watching. Employees at a salon operating on the lower floors reported finding Hello Kitty dolls mysteriously placed inside after closing. When they checked the CCTV footage, a strange, shadowy figure could be seen following the owner out after he locked the door. The fear spread. Tenants moved out. No one wanted to live in a place tainted by such evil. Eventually, the building stood empty, abandoned by the living, yet, some say, still inhabited by something else. In 2012, the building was demolished, but the legend lives on. To this day, people wonder, did Fan Man-yee's spirit truly seek revenge from beyond the grave? Or was it simply the unbearable weight of guilt that finally forced the truth into the light? In the end, Fan Man-yee wasn't just the victim of a crime. She was a symbol of a system that failed her at every turn. A girl who was abandoned, abused, and forgotten by society, until her gruesome death forced the world to finally take notice. Her story is not just a tale of evil, but a chilling reminder of how desperation can be exploited, how silence can enable monsters, and how justice can sometimes come too late. Whether or not her spirit truly haunted her killers, her memory continues to haunt Hong Kong and all of us. The Hello Kitty murder isn't just a crime story. It's a tragic warning, etched in blood, sorrow, and the faint echo of a girl who was never heard until it was too late.